Hello and welcome back. Now that our base mesh is solid, we are ready to start working on the high poly version of the mesh. To get those intricate details, we are going to be sculpting. You can think of this as a different mode of operation, similar to how we switch between object mode and edit mode. But here, our tools change from selection arrows and edge loops to brushes and clay. But first, I would like to convert this leather wrap from a curve object to a mesh object. So to achieve this, I'll select both of them and I'll right click, I'll say convert and I'll convert to mesh. The moment I convert to mesh, the modifiers I added is going to be applied. I'll click on this pop-up menu down here and I will select keep original. So I'm going to have a backup of the object. In case I make mistake in the future, I can always come back to this one and reapply it. So I'll move them to that collection. And then as for this one, I'll move it to the main collection. Let's rename them. Okay, so that aside, before we proceed, let's create a new collection. And then let's call this collection High Poly. Okay, so now I want to start the sculpting from the back. Okay, so I'll select all the handle, right? And then I'll shift it to duplicate, right click to snap back in position, and then I'll press N, then I'll move them to the high poly collection. So when I hide this, I still have these ones. Okay, because I want to start applying the modifiers. I also want to have a backup of what I'm doing. In case I make a mistake, I can always go back to them, okay? So now, before we can start sculpting, there are a few things that we should keep in mind. For one is we have shade smooth turn on. When you right click and say shade flat, you will see the true geometry of our mesh. What I mean by this, if I switch to sculpt mode, and then I come to remesh and I say voxel remesh of 0.002. Let me switch to wireframe so you see how our mesh looks like. It has voxel remesh, but all the sharp edges, corners, and lines are still visible. Yeah, you can switch to the smooth brush and start smoothing. Yeah, but this is going to take a longer while to achieve. There's a better way to do this. So I'm going to Ctrl Z back to where we have this. So right click shade flat. Hold up. You might be wondering why voxel remesh. Well, voxel remeshing solves a bunch of problems that will quietly ruin your sculpt. If I turn on my wireframe, you see how the mesh looks like, right? If your base mesh has stretched faces, long or skinny triangles or messy endpoints, your sculpt brush will behave unpredictable. Some areas will overreact, others won't move properly. Voxel remesh converts everything into evenly distributed quads, so sculpting becomes smooth and consistent. If I switch to my sculpt brush right now and let's say draw sharp, you can see nothing is happening here. Even if I say grab, like the grab brush is not moving, but when I come to this corner, it will start moving, but it's not doing anything in this place. So that's why we need to voxel remesh. There is more, but I'm going to stop here. So now, let me turn off my wireframe. Our high poly mesh needs to be nice and smooth. So to achieve this, we are going to be adding the subdivision surface modifier, and I'm going to use a level of 3 for this. Nice. So now I'm going to apply the modifier. It's one thing to add a modifier and another thing to apply a modifier. Take note of this, guys. So now with it applied, let me turn on my wireframe preview. You see, this is nice, but it's still not good enough. So we need to voxel remesh. So now I'll go to my sculpt mode and I'll come to remesh and I'm going to use a value of 0.00, let's say 1, and I'll remesh. Take note, guys. This process is good, but you need to be careful when voxel remeshing. So let's see, this few million. I'm going to Ctrl Z it back. I don't want to use 0.001. I think it's too tiny. I'm going to remesh 0.002. I prefer this. I have 500k. Yeah, this is good. This is good. Let's see. So you see, when I use a grab brush, everywhere is moving. If I use a draw sharp, same thing, right? Let's Ctrl Z it back to undersmooth. Now, to have some nice details, if your laptop or computer you're using is not strong, you can skip it and continue with this. You can see we still have nice sculpt. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in the multi-resolution modifier. Guys, be careful. If your laptop or computer is not powerful, you can ignore this. And then I'm going to subdivide just once. It's going to take you a while. Okay, it took about 3 minutes. Oh, that's good. So now, when it comes to metal surfaces and rocks, things that has scrapes and chips, a good tool, or should I say, a good brush to use is a scrape brush. This brush is nice to get better surfaces. So, by using the scrape brush, not this one, but scrape or fill, okay? So now I'm going to go around and add those nice scrapes. Be careful when using the scrape brush, it is not good in areas like this. So sometimes, depending on the details you're trying to achieve, instead of using just this, I'm going to use the opposite of it. See, up here we have positive and negative, right? So if I switch to the negative and I do this, you see, it's doing the opposite of scraping surfaces, okay? So depending on what you want to do, you can have that there, that's fine. So I'm going to time lapse the rest of the video. So you just go ahead and maybe listen to music while you just add your nice script all over the surface of the handle. Be careful not to overdo it. Another thing is that you should have a reference image of what you are trying to achieve. It's a good practice, look at reference images, look at what, you can replicate what you see on that reference image. This is where your artistic skills comes to play. Our handle is looking good. Let's add some more details. We are going to be using the draw sharp brush. Please don't get discouraged. This is going to take some time of practice from you, but what do they say? Practice makes perfect, guys. So with the draw sharp selected, I'm just going to do, let's see somewhere in here. I'll reduce the size a tad, and then I'm going to draw like this on it. If you want to master to do this, you can go light from the beginning and then add in your brush in the middle and then light outside again. Where you can see it still paints, right? If you want it to be very straight, you can always enable stabilize stroke, and then you can do same thing. Can you see? Now I have a much more straight cut, okay? So with this, let's turn it off. I'll hold on Control and then I will lightly draw on top of it, very lightly. Okay, I'll do the same for the other side. And then I'll use a paintbrush, use the letter P, or you can come down here and look for the paintbrush. This is a paintbrush, okay? So with the paintbrush selected, I will increase the size a bit. And then I will lightly just pinch the tip. Be careful about using the paintbrush as it can cause some weird deformations on your mesh, okay? Okay, cool. So once again, back to the draw sharp brush, and then I want let's say a cut around here, okay? So sometimes when using the draw sharp brush, you can see that this area is not really looking cool, right? One of the ways to do it is you smoothing that area. So I'm going to use a smooth brush. The lesson is the shortcut, and you can come down here and select the smooth brush, okay? And then smoothing the surface. Then back to the draw sharp brush. Then I'm going to just lightly draw upon it, and then I'll do the opposite. I'll hold on Control and then do the opposite. So I'll switch to the pinch brush again, and then I'll just pinch the tip a bit. I'll switch to the draw sharp brush, reduce my size, my fall off a tad, and then I'll use the opposite. So by default, the drop sharp is digging in. When I hold on Control, it comes out. So when I say the opposite, I mean this, okay? And then I can use the script brush. I can just add some more tiny details over here. So you go ahead and do yours. I'm just going to add a couple of more cuts, and that's all. So I'll say we are done with sculpting for the handle. Let's add some more scripts to the bolt. Okay, so I'll go to object mode. When I switch to object mode, you see the details that we added have disappeared. That's because the level viewport for our multi-resolution is 0. So we can activate it by raising level viewports to 1. Give it some minutes, and there we have it. Nice. Okay, so now I can select the bolt and then let's go to sculpt mode. Let's check out our wireframe and let's see how it looks like. You see, this is not high enough to give us what we want. I'll turn it off. So I would like to voxel remesh this, but take a look, guys. If I should voxel remesh this, yep, it's going to look like this. Why? The reason is because there is space at the back of the mesh. So voxel remesh does not work well when there is empty space behind the mesh. So the mesh needs to be watertight. So all I have to do now is to go around and select every one of them. Okay, they're all selected, and then I'll press F to fill it in. Cool. So next, I'm going to apply the bevel modifier. So now when I voxel remesh, I'll switch to my sculpt mode, and then I'll voxel remesh, and then you see we have those details. But same as before, if I should switch this to shade flat, we'll see the true geometry of what we have. So before that, so when I added the division surface modifier, I'm having this, which is very okay right now. So to solve it, I'll just Ctrl Z down to when I have my bevel modifier. Okay. So the bevel modifier selected. Before I will apply the bevel modifier, I'm going to press my end menu and I'll come to my edge data. Under items, edge data, I'm going to make it a value of 1. Okay. My bevel is set to limit method to be weight. Okay. So now I can now apply my bevel modifier. So when I add in the sub modifier, you see no wonkiness at the back over here. So let's right click, shade flat. So let's increase the level viewport. Let's say 3 is okay. And then I'm going to apply the subdivision surface modifier, or sub for short. Okay. So now I'll switch to my sculpt mode and I'm going to voxel remesh it. Let's see how it looks. Nice. So now I can go to my script brush. Before I will start sculpting the details, let me add in the multi-resolution for much more details. So let's see, let's sculpt. I think this is nice. Yeah, this is okay for this particular object. So I'll just go around and sculpt in some shapes on it. So to switch between different mesh objects while in sculpt mode, you can either go to object mode and then select the other object you want to sculpt, and then you switch, you go back to sculpt mode. Or while in sculpt mode, you can hover your mouse on the object and then you press Alt Q. Okay, so to continue the cut down here, I need to see how the previous one was. So let me go back to object mode. Okay, so I'll select the object, level viewport, now make it 1. Okay, so now let's select the handle and then switch to sculpt mode. Let's see what to add continuation like this. Zooming in this close is looking rough, but from far we have that nice view. since we're not going to be like this super zoom to it. Okay, so I think this is nice. So you just go around and add those details to it. Okay, let's add details to the ladder wrap. So I'll go to object mode and now switch to the ladder wrap. See, okay, it's pretty low. Okay, so I'm going to add the subdivision surface modifier to it. Then it's going to look like that. That's fine. We're going to fix it and edit. Okay, so this, I could tell that I can see how this part is kind of darker than this. I could tell that maybe the normals, yep, the normals are flipped. Okay, so while it's selected, I'll go to edit mode, A to select everything, and then I'll press Alt N, and then I can flip my normals. Then let's turn it off. Let's do this. Let's make it okay. And then let me switch from my matcap to studio. So I want this green to be above and this one to be under. So for this one, I'll just go to edit mode, and I'll select this, and I'll turn my proportional editing. Then I'm just going to press G to move, reduce my fall off retard, and then I think I will just select this middle one like this. And then I'll switch my transform orientation from global to normal. Okay, so now I'm just going to drag it out to third. Same thing with this. Same thing with this. Just to add that odd effect. Okay. I see that this part is too outward. Okay, so I need to put it down to touch the surface. We will need to take note of this when we are doing this adjustment. Okay, this is pretty nice. So let's apply the sub modifier. Let's see how it looks. Okay, so I want to add some extra details. So I'll select this, just like this, and then I'll press Alt S. Let me turn off proportional editing, and then press Alt S. Okay, think something very slightly. Let's add some more. Alt S again. Let's see. Okay. Okay, this is fine. Let's do the same thing for this one. So I'm going to apply the subsoft modifier, and then this is going to be very, very light. Something like this. I think it's too much. Okay. This is good. So I want to switch to the sculpt mode. I'm going to use, okay, it's telling me an error here. That means I've not applied my scale. So I'll select this one and then I'll apply scale. So now I can switch to my grab brush. I'll increase my fall off. I want to adjust this a little bit more inside. And that's it for the ladder wrap. I don't want to add extra details because when I check my reference image, there are no scrape or the likes. As for this one, I just added this because I like how it looks. Okay. So for this, I think we are good. Let's see. Yep, I think we are good. Or we can just add let's say source of modifier to make it look smoother. Then let's apply it. Same thing for this one too. Let's add the source of modifier. Okay. So now I'll select all of them like this. And I'll come to edit, battery name. I am looking for .001, and then I want to replace it with underscore. Okay, so that's it for the eye pulley of the handle. We are almost done with this sword. We just need to sculpt in our blade details, and that's going to be next. We'll do that in the next videos to come. So excellent job guys, save your work, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.